What's up guys, it's Sarah X. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about neighborhoods to live in San Diego. Now, a little bit of context. I've been living in San Diego for over a year now, which is crazy to me. I feel like I just moved here, but then also I feel like I've been here for a while, so can't really decide. When I was moving here from San Francisco, I remember just like not knowing what neighborhoods people lived in. Like I did not know the difference between anything, so I would look up, articles and videos, and I found these to be very helpful. So now that I've been here for a while, I decided I'd make one of my own. Little disclaimer, I'm only going to be talking about the neighborhoods that I know things about / have visited or like have heard a lot from other people. So there will definitely be some neighborhoods that are not covered but are still like, technically a San Diego neighborhood. But if I miss anything, just leave it in the comments down below. First neighborhood that I want to talk about is Pacific Beach, aka PB as the locals call it. I live in PB. I've lived here since I moved here. I think PB is a great starter neighborhood, especially if you're in your early to mid 20s, because PB definitely does skew on the younger side, I would say. It's definitely known for being like party central, but honestly, most of the houses and like where you would actually be living is not like in the party central street. Most of the party stuff goes on Garnett Street, and most of the houses are not on Garnett. And so I found that my neighborhood is actually pretty quiet at night. It's not like I'm like hearing parties all night. Like the actual houses are in actually a relatively safe and quiet neighborhood. And I also find that there are a lot of families that live here. I do see a lot of like young families, and I know some people who like grew up in PB, which I think is really interesting. Just the concept of growing up in PB I think is fascinating as someone who grew up in Michigan. But I think the reason why PB gets the party reputation is just because a lot of the nightlife that people in their 20s go to is in PB. So you have like Moonshine, Backyard, Mavericks, Firehouse. All those like bars and clubs on that street are what people hoard to on the weekends and at night. And so that's kind of where the reputation comes from. And also because we have all the beachfront property, people like to throw like beach parties, like tiki parties, all the stuff that goes on at the beach. On July 4th, it gets pretty boozy on the beach. So that's kind of where the whole party reputation comes from, but it's not like the whole entirety of PB is just like solo cups everywhere all the time. It's not like that at all. I personally really like it here because I moved to San Diego and just SoCal in general because I like the beach feel. And so PB, you really get that beach feel. You're surrounded by beach. There's Pacific Beach, there's Mission Beach, there's the Mission Bay. So pretty much everywhere you go, you can get to a beach relatively quickly. And you have the birds, obviously, like the little bird scooters. So the beach is always just like a bird ride away, which I really like. And there's the palm trees. It just feels very California. Whereas in other neighborhoods, you don't get that feel as much. So I think that's really why I was drawn to PB. On top of that, I actually don't have a car. Most people, I will say, have a car. I'm not in the norm. Like I'm one of the few people, if not like the only one that I know who doesn't have a car, but I will say PB is relatively walkable. Like in both places that I've lived within PB, I've been able to walk to the grocery store. And like I said, there are birds everywhere. I would say the homeless situation, maybe it's just because I moved from SF where it was really bad. I really do not see a lot of homeless people in PB. Like yes, there are some still like at the gas stations, at certain corners, but it's like not a major issue from what I've seen. It really does not bug me at all in PB. I will say there's also kind of a difference between what part of PB you're in. So if you're kind of more in North PB by like Tourmaline, closer to Bird Rock, that's where the nicer houses I think are. I think North PB is generally known for being the nicer part of PB. You just have the really nice, expensive, more, family homes over there. It's also more elevated, so you have better views. I feel like Crown Point is where a lot of people my age live. It's also really close to Mission Bay, which is a great place to walk. It's like a park. You have the view of the water, you have the view of downtown in the distance, of SeaWorld. And then the middle of PB, you're like close to Vaughn's, you're close to all the restaurants, you're close to all the shops. So it's really just a preference. friends. The thing I thought was interesting though when I first moved to PB, there's no malls or like Targets, you know, within PB. If you wanted to go to a mall to shop, you have to kind of go drive a little bit, like 10 to 15 minutes to get to one. There's not too much shop. It's like random shopping, you know, it's like the beach stores that have the kind of corny merch that I do enjoy. I mean, we do have a thrift store, we do have a Goodwill, which I do go to a lot. Like in San Francisco, I could walk to this pretty big Westfield mall. That stuff is all a car ride away. Like, you do have to drive to get to that kind of stuff. The other thing about PB is that people come to you. I feel like whenever there's like gatherings or like a lot of events tend to happen in PB. So it is a great place to live if you want easy access to events and stuff that happen on the beach. You know, we have like Spike Ball that happens on the beach on Tuesdays, and all the bars also host, you know, a lot of events. I will say it was kind of hard to find housing in PB just because there weren't a lot of options. So you kind of have to be on the hunt and like have an alert on. So like as soon as one goes up, you put in the application because it is definitely very competitive. A lot of the houses are already taken. I tried to live with like 4 girls when I first moved here and we could not find one for 4 people, so we had to split up. It's definitely easier to find housing for 2 people within PB, but it's very competitive. If you're into like the high-rise luxury apartments, PB is not for you. The houses here are very much beach houses, buildings that have like 6 units, but you're not gonna get any like luxury high-rises. And a lot of the ones that I saw had like just like an older feel. It's kind of hard to find one that's more newly renovated. I've been getting lucky with the 2 places that I lived in, but a lot of the ones that I saw were kind of more like an old vibe. But I do really enjoy living in PB. We have Kate Sessions Park, which people love to picnic at. It's a great little starter place to live if you're really trying to get that beachy vibe and are in your 20s, especially early mid-20s. Mission Beach is kind of like the strip, which is attached to PB. If you're walking along Pacific Beach, it eventually turns into Mission Beach. I would say Mission Beach is like a little more isolated just because it is on its own little strip, but almost all the houses are pretty much right on the beach just because it is so narrow. All the houses that I see there are like steps away from the beach, if not on the beach. And there actually are some really freaking nice beach houses along Mission Beach. I think some of them are Airbnbs though. There's definitely a good amount of Airbnbs. It's also great for bonfires. I would say it's probably like the quiet cousin of PB. There are really good brunch spots there. There are also just like some random boutique clothing stores. There's like a swimsuit store, random knickknacks, and then some pretty good cafes as well. And it's really nice because it's close to PB, which is where all the action is. So like if you want to be close to the action but kind of isolated off, Mission Beach would be nice for you. Okay, next I'm gonna talk about North Park. And the thing about North Park, I kind of lump it in, and this is just me, I lump it in with South Park and Normal Heights just because to me they all have very similar energy. And when people mention like one of those, I just kind of picture similar things. North Park, I feel like a lot of people graduate from Pacific Beach to North Park, South Park, Normal Heights. So that's why it tends to skew more towards mid to late 20s versus early to mid 20s. You definitely don't get as much of a beachy feel in these neighborhoods. In North Park, there's a lot of breweries. If you love beer, cracking a cold one with the boys, North Park definitely has that scene. There's like this cool vintage bookstore there, this random like art store, like yeah, there are just some vintage shops. There's like a lot of places to eat for sure. It's kind of all congregated on like one little area, and apparently there's like a really good farmers market that happens in North Park. I feel like it's definitely a better place to live if you kind of already have an established friend group. I just feel like it's someplace you live like once you already have like maybe a significant other or like your squad established, because there's just not as much going on in North Park in general. It's just like you have your essentials, but I mean you can probably find a nice house. I just feel like for me, like it's definitely a little more boring than like PB, for example. La Jolla is just super nice. It's very bougie. It's like known for having like actual houses, like nice freaking houses. I don't think I've ever heard anyone say like, let's go to La Jolla to go out or like go to the bars or clubs. Like, it's not known for its nightlife at all. It's very much quieter. Things shut down earlier, but it's just nice. I went to like the USPS store in La Jolla once. It was the freaking nicest USPS store I've ever been in my life. It's very expensive though, but there's so much to do. You have like La Jolla Shores where you can go kayaking, and all the little vendors have their little stands at La Jolla Shores. So many brunch spots. A lot of shopping. A lot of the nicer stores have shops in La Jolla. I would say it's definitely one of the safer neighborhoods as well. And it's relatively close to UCSD. So you get a lot of college students also living in La Jolla. So it's like a mix of college students, retired people, people who are just really rich. The only thing about La Jolla is it's kind of a little bit out of the way in the sense that if you wanted to go downtown, it would be a little bit of a drive. So it's a little more isolated on like the northern side of San Diego. But it's also kind of close to Torrey Pines, which is where a lot of the hikes are. There's a lot of outdoorsy things to do in La Jolla actually, and good shopping, good food. It's just very expensive. Also kind of lacks diversity a little bit, but that's a lot of San Diego. And you do still get the beachy feel in La Jolla. It's very beautiful, super beautiful. There's also the aquarium, there's Mount Soledad. Hillcrest is the center of the LGBTQ community in San Diego. So if you're familiar with the Castro in San Francisco, it's basically the Castro of San Diego. You get like a lot of very welcoming, very fun, nice people in Hillcrest. There's a lot of good brunch spots as well. There's like drag brunch, there's good thrifting, cute little quirky shops. It's definitely like a very friendly neighborhood. I always have a good time when I go to Hillcrest, and it has decent nightlife as well. It has like a lot of cool gay bars, fun nightlife. I need to go out in Hillcrest more. That's the thing about living in PB, is that like you don't really need to leave, especially for the nightlife, because it's so close that like it's easy to just get lazy and like stay in PB. So that is something to watch out for if you know that you get lazy. But yeah, I would definitely say Hillcrest is one of my favorite neighborhoods, and I really want to explore it more. Clairemont. So Clairemont, I feel like I have a lot of friends who live in Clairemont. There's pretty much nothing to do over there. It's just like a lot of more affordable housing. The housing is definitely probably cheaper in Clairemont. You can find places that fit more people and is just like way cheaper. I know people in Clairemont who pay like $900 for rent versus like in PB I'm paying like $1,300. So it's definitely cheaper in Clairemont, but there's like nothing to freaking do over there. You do have the movie theaters. The movie theater I go to is in Clairemont. You have the plazas where you have the grocery stores, you have like the Jersey Mike's, the Starbucks. There are Targets in Clairemont. So you have like all the suburby classics, but everyone I know who lives in Clairemont just like comes to PV to hang out. So it's someplace to live if you like want a deal, but don't expect to be like chilling there for a lot. Like most people will just live in Clairemont and like spend their time elsewhere. But there is Main Chick, which is a really good freaking fried chicken place. I will give Clairemont that. Okay, then we have Ocean Beach. I actually go to Ocean Beach a decent amount. It's in a pretty good central location. It's kind of known for being more hippie. Not really sure why. I guess just like some of the stores and the people that hang out there. But it kind of has a similar thing to La Jolla, where along the beach they have a lot of vendors that are set up. There are a decent amount of thrift and vintage stores in OB. One of my favorite poke spots is in OB called It's Raw. A really cool clothing store called Closet is there. And there is a Target in OB. There are actually some co-livings and hostels there as well. I went to like this one thing at night in OB once when like everyone was kind of vibing and like people were like playing drums and just like, which I guess was kind of hippie. And I know a lot of people who surf in OB. So surfing is decent in OB as well. And there are a lot of decent amount of events that happen here, like Oktoberfest happened in OB. And the nightlife is actually pretty fun. THC, the holding company, is a great like 2-floor dance bar club thing. There's also a place to go where you can play pool and like there's like arcade games. The crowd is definitely still older than PB, but like not old. I kind of associate Ocean Beach with Sunset Cliffs. Sunset Cliffs is just absolutely beautiful, obviously for the sunset, and there's a lot of houses along Sunset Cliffs. That is definitely a tourist attraction. And I think the Kobe Swap Meet is also in this area, which is like this huge kind of secondhand vintage thrifting fair that goes on pretty much every weekend. You can find some affordable housing. I have a friend who lives in OB and he's not paying that much for his place, and he has a pretty nice view too because a lot of the houses are kind of like elevated. Definitely one of the best places to live in San Diego, I would say, in your 20s. That goes for Point Loma as well, which is like just a little south of OB. Little Italy is probably, and this is just my opinion, if I were to live anywhere downtown, I would probably choose Little Italy, Bankers Hill area, because you are close to like Balboa Park and all that stuff, but you're not like all the way down in Gaslamp, which I'll get into later. Obviously, there's freaking good Italian food here. There's like this whole little plaza area where you can get like gelato and like brunch. And then there's also a really nice farmer's market that happens in Little Italy as well. And you're close to Waterfront Park, which has like the whole little waterfall and cross festival happens there. And the whole harbor view area with like the boats and like the glass dome place to eat. I would say it's like louder because it's kind of by the trolley and like the train. Some people say it's like a little dirty still, like you still kind of get that dirty like city feel that you don't get as much in some of the other neighborhoods. I think in general, if you want to live in Little Italy, if you live in a high rise, you'll have a bit of a better experience than like a normal house. And then in terms of Gaslamp and like the rest of downtown, I'm gonna lump together. Like when I first moved here, coming from SF, a lot of my friends lived in like the really nice high rises, and so that's what I knew and what I thought would be like the best option in San Diego. Now that I'm here, I'm like so glad I did not choose to live downtown. Just because first of all, Gaslamp and the rest of downtown is just like really isolated from like PB, La Jolla and all that stuff up there. Like it would take a while to get up there, especially with no car. That would have sucked. But also the homelessness is pretty bad. There are a lot of sections with like a bunch of tents. Just like walking around, it's definitely less safe at night. If you are bothered by like the homeless people, they are out there and they can sometimes be kind of in your face and loud, and it does kind of smell like pee. But you know, that's just all stuff that happens like in any big cities. If you like the city feel, downtown is for you. I personally don't even feel like I'm in San Diego when I'm downtown because it is just like the buildings. There are some palm trees, but it's like not a beach vibe at all, and that's what I associate San Diego with. Like if I wanted to live in a city, I would go to freaking New York or like Chicago or even San Francisco. The actual city part of San Diego, I don't think is my favorite quote unquote city landscape, but there are a lot of, you know, there is a lot of nightlife. There was a really cool speakeasy I went to called Vende Sera that was there. A lot of bar crawls that happen are downtown. Also rooftops, if you're really into rooftop bars, rooftop restaurants, there are a lot of good rooftops downtown. You also have the stadium where all the Padres games are, so if you're really into that and you want easy access, maybe living downtown would be good for you. It totally depends on your vibe, because I know I have friends who live down there who really like it. It's just not my aesthetic for San Diego. In terms of like the nightlife, it definitely draws an older crowd. You'll get like more people in their 30s, 40s, but there are a lot of cool little spots. I went to like a dueling piano bar. There's definitely probably more options. I would say there's more nightlife options, probably more restaurant options. There definitely are some freaking nice high rises. If you want a very modern high-rise apartment with like a balcony, you probably have to go downtown. And then the last neighborhood I'm going to talk about is Mission Hills, south of PB, north of Little Italy, Balboa Park. It's really cool. It has a lot of more historic homes. I think it is a little more expensive, but it's very, very close to one of the big malls here, so easy access to the mall. Definitely a quieter neighborhood, but it's very quaint, has a lot of history. Definitely more single family homes than like apartments. I know this rock climbing place that I go to is by there. Yeah, so those are all the neighborhoods I'm going to touch on. I know there are some other ones like Imperial Beach, which is really south and like close to Tijuana, that a lot of like the military people I know live there because it's like I think it's close to the base. And then a lot of the ones that are a little more north, I just like haven't been to. I feel like I don't know enough to talk about it, but please leave it in the comments so that other people can gain insight into it. Let me know if you guys agree, disagree, if I missed anything. Let me know what your favorite neighborhood is of San Diego. Let's see, if I were to rank it, it's really even hard to rank because it's just totally a preference thing. I would say maybe start in PB, Mission Beach, or OB, and then graduate to Hillcrest, North Park, or La Jolla. But if you're more of a city person, Little Italy, you know, or even Gaslamp. Gaslamp does have character if that's what you're into. And if you're trying to save some money and be in the suburbs, go to Clairemont. Just all the options. Well, I hope that was helpful, and yeah, I will talk to you guys in the next video.